Hey everybody, it's Irene with BrainStormAcres, and today I am going to be decorating some pouches. Now, these pouches are something that I use in my shop when someone buys some small piece of something. I say, would you like a bag for that? And sometimes they say, no, I have something already I can put it into. And other times I'm like, you sure? Because you don't want to lose the pieces. You know, if you have several little teeny tiny things, it's easy to lose them in a pouch, or especially if you have a basket. Sometimes the weave of the basket may be just a smidge too big and you can actually have things fall out, which is never cool, never fun to lose something you've bought. So I have these little bags, and years ago, I started buying these bags to use in my shop, and I decided that I wanted them to have some sort of a message or thing on them that would help people remember where they got them from, and they would be the kind of a thing that people could reuse. So, say if I bought a little necklace pendant in one of these bags, I would take it home and, gee, maybe later I take that pendant out and I put it someplace else, but I still have this cute little bag and it's got a circle with a letter T on it. You'll notice that that shows up as kind of my symbol on a lot of my shop infrastructure. So I decided that I wanted something on them, and the easiest thing to do is to get them imprinted by a company. And I looked into the price on that, and it was pretty significant. It adds quite a bit of expense to the bags themselves. Now, these are little inexpensive, you know, satin sort of bags with a little drawstring at the top. They come in from China by the gazillions. I buy them in packs of 48. I get them from my main jewelry supplier, which is Rio Grande Jewelry Supply in Albuquerque, New Mexico. There are other places that sell them. In general, the quality of the bags that I have gotten through Rio have been better than most of the other places. I knew that if I had a problem, I could always contact them and say, hey, these were crap, you know, and I would either get a refund or something. They would replace them. So I've never had that happen. Once in a rare while, out of 48, you might wind up with one that doesn't have a string, maybe, and that doesn't happen every time. So, and the not have a string part is easy. I could put strings on something. I just have some random ribbon or something that I'll use, because the strings on these are literally just ribbons. And if I take one that's not currently stuffed, you can see it's just two little ribbons. You pull them and keeps the stuff in there. So as I say, I looked into imprinting them, and it significantly upped the cost. And that was something I really didn't want to do, was increase the cost. The imprinting is kind of a slick process. I've never seen an imprinted bag that I was really impressed by. It always looks like some mall jewelry store. And that's fine, but I'm not a mall jewelry store. My stuff is all custom or semi-custom, or at least copies, reproductions of historic pieces, that sort of stuff, or historically inspired pieces. So I wanted to do a little bit better, so I was looking for something a little bit more artsy, but I certainly was not about to sit there and paint individual bags. That was just out of the question. So the easy thing to do, I thought, was create a stamp. And I actually own two stamps now, mostly because at some point I managed to lose one of them. Yeah. And I honestly don't remember which one I made first. It doesn't really make any difference. But I went to one of the big box craft stores. I think it was probably Michael's. But I've also seen this applies at other places. In their stamp area, they will usually have, we can ask the people that work there, they'll have this squishy, really rubbery sort of stamp material that you can buy, it comes in sheets that are about 4x6. I think I've seen it 3x4 too. So, you know, different size sheets. And it's about an inch thick. And it carves really easy. And they sell the knives and stuff there that they're just, I just simply use little carving tools. You could use X-Acto knives or stuff like that. The nice part about the carving tools is you have the ones that will scoop out shapes. I have a set of wood carving tools, and that's all I used. But all I did was trace the design that I wanted on them and carve out the area. So I wanted a ring around the outside, and I wanted the T. So I knew I had to carve out the background. Really not brain surgery. So once I'd figured that out, then I had to figure out how I was actually going to do this. So I started playing around with a couple of, I think I may have chosen a bag that was like damaged or something like that. Not that it came damaged, but that it had gotten damaged accidentally. And because stuff does happen when you're traveling. And I realized that one of the things I needed to do was put a piece of cardboard in the bags, because the fabric is thin enough that if you, I don't know if you can see that or not, on some of these it's really pretty obvious, and others it's not. That's been used for a couple of different colors. When you stamp them with the paint, even though that there's not a ton of paint on here, it will bleed through. Now if you have this piece of cardboard in there, and all I'm doing is I've taken some, you know, like the flaps off cardboard boxes and stuff like that. I've cut them to the right size for my little pouches, and I slide them in. Don't make them too big because you want them to fit properly. But you don't want them too small either, because you don't want to be like trying to hit this amazing target of being perfectly in the center, and if you get sideways, then it's going to bleed through to the back. Now, if it bleeds through to the back, there's one that really shows the paint. And you can see I've used both sides of this, so it's got both red and white paint on it. My own research showed that either red or white paint provides the best contrast for the pouches. This color here, I think, is called, is it sand? Sahara. Okay, implying sand, of course. So it's kind of a neutral beige color. I have a selection of colors. I always have some pinks. I always have some greens. I try and have a selection of colors. So for instance, if I see a person who's wearing like lots of green clothes or something like that, sometimes I'm like, how about a green bag? And they're like, ooh, that's cool. It matches my outfit. You know, it's a small bit of joy for people. Sometimes if they're, a guy is getting something for a girl, and especially if it's a surprise, I'll say, hey, would she like a pink bag? Or would she prefer something like this instead? You know, and it depends on the person, but it gives them that option. It makes them feel special. It's no more work on my part. It's nice having a selection of bags, and sometimes I give people a choice, sometimes I don't, but I usually do it based on what they look like and how they're behaving. You know, so if they, sometimes for the rough and tumble guy types, I have some that are a plainer, rougher sort of fabric. I would never use that for something that I consider to be more delicate. So I've got those all set. I have my little high-tech yogurt container lid. Obviously the large size yogurt. I have some slightly watered down paint here. Now this is just my plain old red acrylic paint. Same sort of stuff I used on my signage. And I've mashed the, I was using a larger brush for some of the signage that I did. So that brush is still here and it's still got plenty of paint on it. But I am diluting it slightly. And I'm going to brush that lightly. Now, if I'm concerned about if I do having too much paint on it, I can easily take another piece of cardboard. I do need to make sure I press it straight down, and then let's pick it straight up. There we go. See? They're slightly different designs that I have here. So Let me find another white one. They're slightly different teas. Like I said, I actually lost the blasted stamp at one point, and I was like, I need to make more of this. I don't have time to spend 7 days looking for this. And now I have a special big flat box that my stuff goes in that includes my acrylic paint. And I actually got a little too much paint on that one. But you see, it's the same sort of a concept. So now all I have to do is decide that I have enough paint on here, and I can either paint directly on this. There's 3 different ways I've done it. I have painted directly on the stamp, like you saw me do with a paintbrush. I have also done times when I have a very thin layer of paint in the bottom of this. I can simply push on here, pick it up. I'll make sure that I feel like it's got enough on there. And the only way to know is to experiment. There we go. They are not going to be 100% perfect. And you know what? That's okay, because I'm not looking, I don't want to look like a mall store. I want to look like an artisan has done this. See? And I am going to continue that until all these are stamped. I have probably, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I probably have close to 10 packs of these. So I have close to 500 of these little bags. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put them in rows on here. Now this one didn't come out right. You see that? When that happens, if it's really bad, like this one is, and I'm not exactly sure what it did there, I must have hit it a little, didn't get enough paint on it. I will go back with my paintbrush and I will fill it in just a bit. Now I'm not trying to make it perfect, but I want that tea to be obvious. So that does not happen very often. And it probably happened because I was busy talking. But see, now it's distinctly a tea again. And I can decide, if I really wanted to be, I could be super fussy and decide to fix up all the other, you know. I'm not going to be, really, because this is a freebie that comes with something that's bought. It's supposed to look artistic, and it's fine. So that is what I'm going to be doing. I may switch between stamps. As I recall, one of these works better than the other, and I don't remember which is which. So I will fiddle around with that, figure it out, and do lots of stamping. Now, if you've been watching me do a few of these, you will notice that this stamp does work a little bit better than the other ones, which is why I've switched to this one. And you'll notice that when I go to stamp, I actually put my left hand down and spread the pouch a little bit flat. I don't overzealously try and make everything perfect. Now, I wound up with a bare spot right in the middle of that T. I don't like the way it looks, so I'll color it in a little bit. But most of the time, they're good enough. Now, I will be setting them out here on this piece of cardboard. Basically, I'll be taking a break for lunch soon, and by the time lunch is done, at least the beginning ones will be dry enough. Now, by dry enough, I mean they will be safe to be removed from where they are. I can take the cardboard out of them and I can set them aside. Now, I'm not going to actually pack them away for 24 hours. I like to make sure that they're 100% dry because this paint is not completely even. There are some areas that are really thin and there are some areas that are really thick. The thicker paint will take longer to dry. Acrylic, when it's not completely dried, can be a little sticky, and I don't want the pouches to stick together. I've never had a real disaster with that. I've come close once or twice when I wasn't paying enough attention, and I just want to avoid that. Now, say you don't really need pouches, or what would you use pouches for if you don't run a shop? Well, there's lots of situations when, if you're running parties and things like that, where you could use this to monogram a napkin. You could use this to decorate napkin rings that you were making. You could use this to create little pouches that you had little giveaways in for kids or adults or whatever. There's actually lots of useful things that stamps and stamped designs can be used for. I have known people who've used stencils to decorate their walls. That was a common thing. And all these things kind of come and go in terms of popularity. But I watched one of those do-it-yourself renovation sort of things the other day, and when they got to a pantry that they were renovating for somebody, the woman particularly was fond of blue, and the walls in there were white, so they did a pattern. Instead of putting wallpaper up, they did a pattern with a sponge and some blue paint. So they simply made sort of chevrons designs on the walls. You know, they put some blue painter's tape up there to help them guide it, but they weren't going for perfect. They were going for a crafted look like this. There's all kinds of things you can use this sort of stuff for. Use your imagination. And I'm going to get back to work because I have a lot of bags to do. How many of these pieces of cardboard you need will be determined by how many things you need to print and how much space you have to lay things out. There have been times in the past when I had more bags and cardboard than I had space. Today I have a really big piece of cardboard to lay this stuff out on, so I can do all 48 of these bags, I think, without running out, which is nice because then it means I know I've got one pack done. So I'll either be able to do all 48 or I'll come real close. They can actually, the cardboard inserts can actually be taken out probably less than an hour after you put the paint on. So if I do it like this, and I know that those were the first things done and these are the last things done down here, by the time I get down here, I could actually take out, if I had more space, for instance, to stash things, I could actually have the first ones just laying there. They would be dry enough so that the paint would no longer be at risk of bleeding through. Because I don't want that. I just like the nice tidy look of no paint bleed on the back, on my bags. So I want to always make sure that I have a cardboard and everything. Sometimes you can really see that there's cardboard and sometimes you can't. But those are all done. That means I have 48 pouches ready to go. So I'm going to put a little bit more paint down here and a couple of drops of water because I don't want to have the paint too thick and I don't want to have the paint get too dry either. And if I notice that my paint is starting to fade out on a part of the stamp, I will simply either mash it around with this stamp or I will brush it around a little bit with the paintbrush. And it takes practice. That's all you can say is it takes practice. I have literally stamped probably thousands of bags at this point. Because it's not uncommon for me to use 100 or more bags at an event in a single day. So that's why I have to have lots of these guys stashed away, tidy and findable. That findable is just as important as everything else, by the way, when I go to an event. I'm going to recharge my very fancy thing here. Just have to make sure my tea is right side up. I don't want to accidentally paint upside down. And don't feel you have to rush. I can do this relatively quickly because I've done a zillion of them. But especially like if I was doing napkins or some other decorative thing, a little doily or something, I might have guidelines or some sort of a paint tape on something in order to provide guidelines. This does not need to be precise. Most of the times these bags are going to be used with the drawstrings pulled, so they're going to be wrinkled up anyway. So if it's not 100% perfect, it is not the end of the world. But there we go, 48 done. I hope this inspires you. I hope it gives you some ideas about what you could use little stamps like this. You could buy stamps. It just so happened that the Circle T was not something I could easily purchase. There probably are places you could, I would bet there's somebody on Etsy making stamps like this if you really feel you couldn't do it. A lot of times though, you can buy pre-made stamps at a craft store that will have all kinds of designs and stuff. I use a stamp that has a imprint of a scallop shell that I purchased at one of the big box craft stores, and that's used for a specific event that we do at one of our events. Doesn't have to be hard, doesn't have to be complicated. You can combine different stamps to create little mini collage sort of things on your pieces. Have fun, use your imagination, and be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, because obviously got lots going on here. So until next time, bye. Oh, and don't forget to keep brainstorming, because obviously we are.